The new Overwatch 2 tank RAMATTRA's abilities and his ultimate just got revealed, and boy did they look awesome. But not as awesome as being subscribed to GameLeap.com, where you can get access to hundreds of educational guides from all of the top coaches in Overwatch for a low price. Come and check out our website today by following the link in the description below or going to GameLeap.com in order to start soaring up the ranks and climbing the Overwatch ladder. Okay, so the information I have about RAMATTRA for you today was revealed at a Korean media conference, and therefore some of the names are maybe a little bit off. This is because they are translated, and the names that actually are given to the English side of things may actually end up being different on the release on December 6th, but for now, this is our earliest look at what RAMATTRA can actually do. So, for starters, we have his Void Accelerator, which is the name of his gun in his Omnic form, where his left click fires a projectile that advances in a certain shape. Now, this is literally what the leak says word for word. I don't know what the certain shape is or what it means, but on a snap judgment, I'm guessing it means something similar to Echo's primary fire, which sort of goes in a triangle pattern in an odd shape. At least odd in the context of you don't really expect a weapon to fire in a triangle pattern. Like for a shotgun, you expect a much more spread. But anyway, the point is, I'm guessing that it means something along those lines. There isn't any details on how much damage this does, so I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. And then as for his right click, his secondary fire, he creates a barrier at the target location. Again, every bit of translation here needs to be taken with a grain of salt because it was originally in Korean from what I understand, but the fact that it says target location makes me think that he can actually put a barrier out at range. So something similar to what ORISA's original shield was, where she sort of fired it out and it would travel in an arc, is what I'm assuming this means. I'm guessing that it would mean this. It could also be something that just forms instantly, but we really don't have more information than this. All I know is that it looks like it's going to be a ranged shield. Moving on into his E, his first ability, we have something called the Vortex of Gluttony, which is odd for the character. I definitely think that that's probably going to be changed, but you know, I guess we'll see. So the ability description says it launches nanospheres, which then explode on contact with the ground and create a damaging force field. It kind of sounds like Disruptor from Sojourn, just from that. It then says that enemies within the force field's influence are pulled to the ground. So far, this is actually just sounding like a remake of ORISA from Overwatch 1. That's what I'm getting so far. It even goes on to say that the movement speed of enemies under the influence of the force field is slowed, which, again, sounds very similar to Halt from Overwatch 1, which ORISA had, because after you would pull people in, they would be slowed for a few seconds after. So his next ability is called Chastisement, and it's on his shift, and it seems like he transfers into a Nemesis form, which is similar to how Bastion works right now. Pretty much he transforms into, quote, Nemesis, unquote, for about 8 seconds, and he can use the following skills. In parentheses afterwards, it says, it is not disclosed how many seconds the form can be held, which is honestly very confusing to me. So I'm assuming what it means, just off of a snap glance, is that his Nemesis form has a limit on the initial side of how long you have to be in the form, where you can't just transfer back and forth. It's worded very confusingly, but that's my assumption, is that you press your shift and then you transform into Nemesis, and your pretty much transformation ability goes on cooldown, and then 8 seconds later you can transfer back into your Omnic form. That's really the only thing that would make sense, just by the parentheses saying it's not disclosed how many seconds the form can be held, and the fact that it changes how his primary and secondary fire work, which we'll get into now. So for his primary fire, he attacks with fists forward, generating a shockwave each time the fist is raised, and the shockwave penetrates enemies in front. So just judging off of this, it pretty much means one of two things. Either we have a Winston situation where he sort of does AoE cleave in front of him and can hit people and penetrate through targets, as it says, or this is going to be more of a Doomfist situation where he sort of charges forward and does that shockwave. Either way, sounds pretty interesting. Definitely sounds like this is what you're going to be doing when you need to get aggressive. And then moving into his secondary fire, it says reduces movement speed, but greatly reduces damage from the front. This also sounds exactly like Doomfist's power block, where he mitigates a ton of damage coming forward and charges his fist, but it doesn't say anything about any sort of bonus you get for mitigating damage with this ability. And the fact that it's on a a right click makes me think that it might not have a limit to how long you can do it for, unlike Doomfist. That might be the trade-off there, is that with Doomfist you have a limited time but you get a massive offensive boost afterwards, whereas with this you might not get any offensive boost but you can do it for longer. And then finally for his Nemesis form, it says when in Nemesis form, gain 150 additional defense, which increases your total health from 450 to 600. Now it's not clear on whether or not that increases his health with armor, or if it's just normal white bar health, or if it's shields or whatever else. But if it is armor, that actually makes him extremely tanky and can even put him on par with Diva and Reinhardt for how much damage he can take. If not, we're looking at more of a Roadhog from Overwatch 1 situation where, yeah, it's more health, but it's actually pretty easy to whittle down. Either way, the boost in HP is going to certainly be good for when you want to get aggressive with your Nemesis form. Hey, if you are enjoying the video so far, please be sure to like and subscribe for more killer free Overwatch educational and news content. And moving into his ultimate, we have Destruction. So for this, you automatically switch to your Nemesis form and you create an energy zone around it. Enemies within the energy zone take continuous damage, and the duration is maintained as long as you deal damage to enemies within the energy zone. Oh my god, depending on how much damage that does, that actually sounds ridiculously broken. It pretty much sounds like you could have Reaper's Death Blossom without needing to ever worry about something like Beat or Defense Matrix stopping it. And honestly, against something like Beat or Transcendence, they won't be able to sustain your team through the entire duration of this. You are going to have to run away, which could actually make this a really strong zoning ultimate and make it good on stuff like payloads and overtime. So just off of a snap judgment, let me give my thoughts on where I think he's going to fall into the meta and how he's going to play moving into Season 2. Now, it's important to note that this is subject to change before Season 2 because that is still half a month away. However, the meta for the next patch that's coming out tomorrow, it's already been set in stone. So what I'm going to do is work off of the assumption that the meta between the next patch that's coming out and December 6th isn't going to be too different, which there obviously is some fallacy in doing, but I'm going to do it anyway because that's what we have right now. So looking at it, it seems like he can play a tank that is a very hybrid role where he can sort of be very set in stone and make a stronghold in the way that Sigma can when he is in his Omnic form, being able to fire his projectile that quote advances in a certain shape. And his secondary fire, creating a barrier, can actually create a lot of good pressure to make a defensive hold, since we know that Sojourn is going to continue being meta. Plus on attack, you can use your barrier to take space and then use your Nemesis to actually engage, which I think is going to make this tank a very fundamentals driven character. It's going to require good instinct on the tank's part to know exactly what stage of the fight you're entering, knowing like, okay, this is the poke phase, we need to use the shield to take some space, I need to poke out some abilities, some cooldowns and that sort of thing, before deciding to sort of put your foot down on the gas, switch to your Nemesis form and take over the fight and try to close out a complete win. And based on this ability to play the fast or slow game, I think he is going to end up being the most meta tank going forward, because right now you pretty much either have tanks that are good at playing the slow game like Roadhog and kind of okay at getting aggressive towards the mid fight, or you have tanks that are very front loaded, get in your face, get aggressive and try to burst down targets and create fight wins immediately, such as Monkey. And if you've seen our most recent meta videos that I've been putting out, trying to keep very close track of what pros are doing going into the next patch, you would have seen that in Overwatch League for the grand finals recently, they were definitely opting more for the very fast-paced, immediate engage and go for picks class with the Monkey. Whereas in Korean contenders, we actually saw them using a lot more Roadhog and a little bit more of a slow game slash sturdy game where they're able to sort of just put out a ton of damage and sort of play around for getting a pick and getting an advantage before they actually went and took fights. And the thing that seems really strong about RAMATTRA is, like I said, he falls into both of those sides of the spectrum. So a team that has a tank that has very good awareness and very good fundamentals can actually make incredible use out of him and be able to play both sides of the coin. All of this, coupled with the fact that his E is able to suck people in and sort of force them to be slow, means that when you pair him with Lucio and Reaper, he's going to be able to actually just hard hard engage. And pretty much what the introduction to every fight is going to look like on a pro level is going to be the Lucio confirming he has speed amp and the RAMATTRA saying, okay, I'm using my vortex in 3, 2, 1, and he's going to use his E, switch to his nemesis form, and then immediately engage. And upon sucking in 2 or 3 enemies, his damage comboed with the Reaper damage, comboed with Sojourn's Disruptor, especially if you can combo Vortex and Disruptor, you're going to be able to pack in a lot of damage for quick engages. Plus his Destruction ultimates, again, depending on how much damage he does in general, because all of this is a moot point if he does 0 damage, right? This is all very reliant on the fact that he follows the sort of path that other tanks have, and he is actually able to do a ton of damage. Because right now, in a lot of situations, tanks are dealing pretty much as much damage as another DPS, and that needs to continue in order for the tank to be strong. So if RAMATTRA can't keep up with that, he probably won't be meta, but just judging off of what I've seen so far, I doubt that's going to be the case with Blizzard. In fact, he's probably going to come out doing a little bit too much damage, just knowing what we know from past patches. And either way, I think he is going to slot in perfectly with the current meta, which is the Lucio, Kiriko, Reaper, Sojourn, or the Roadhog Ana Zen setup. Either way, I think he's going to fit very well. And honestly, I think that we're actually going to see a falling off of slower supports like Zen and Ana, as opposed to what we saw in Korean contenders, because I think that having a Lucio is going to be absolutely crucial to go along with this character. You are going to want to be able to follow up when he switches to his Nemesis form, since you're going to lose the shield that you get in the Omnic form, and he's going to be using Vortex to sort of suck enemies in and create a very clear engagement point. In any case, if nothing else, despite this character being a little bit spooky right now, because he does seem to have an extremely loaded kit and be extremely versatile, and the only other character I can think of that's as versatile is actually Sojourn, and we all know how much of a problem she is right now. He does at least look extremely fun, and it does seem like he's going to fit into the meta that we're sort of shifting into, where mobility is absolutely king in Overwatch, so I'm looking forward to playing him, and be sure to check out the guides that I am certainly going to release on him. In any case, guys, that is going to be all for this leak today. I hope you all enjoyed and are looking forward to RAMATTRA as much as I am, and please let me know down below what you think of his abilities and where he is going to fit into the meta in your opinion. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you all again very soon. Take care and peace.